Jy is ingeskakel. En luister nou na die program Straight Talk met die United Independent Movement, wat aangebied word deur professor Aubrey en die United Independent Movement se president Jacques Taljaard, saam met ons anker Chris vanaf Port Elizabeth, saam met verskeie gaste wat van tyd tot tyd deel gewees het op die program. Ja, hier op Joy Radio, elke donderdag vanaf 18:30 tot 2000 uur. En Plain Afrikaans, 6:30 tot en met 8 op donderdag aand. Net hierso, waar daar niks terughou gaan word nie. En waar daar net regheid en opreg gepraat gaan word oor die daaglikse gebeure in Suid-Afrika, dat ieder akkerlandsburger hierdie rond.
You are tuned in here on Joy Radio, your companion and friend in Jesus. The following program is paid for.
Ons is hier, dit is donderdag aand en dit is Straight Talk with UIM. Nou ja, geliefdes, Jacques Taljaard, die president, gaan bietjie later by ons aansluit. Hy het so 'n paar verpligtinge wat hy moet nakom. Nee, kyk, prokureurs moet ook maar so 'n bietjie laat werk so nou en dan. Sien net ons mense wat dit net aanhoudend moet doen nie. Maar huidiglik saam met my het ek vir Chris Herodes, julle almal ken hom nou al teen hierdie tyd, heel baie goed. En dan natuurlik ons nuut ingehuldigde raadslid daar in die Kaap, Kurt Oliver. Ja, die one and the only. Hello Chris, how are you this evening?
Good evening, Prof. Very well, thanks. Hello, Kurt. Thank you. Pleasure to be here once again.
Yes, also it's a pleasure for us to have you always here on the program. Kurt, welkom weer eens hier vanaand by ons.
Yeah, thanks, Prof. Great to be on the show tonight again. Good evening, Chris, and to our listeners.
Yeah, so Kurt, tell us a bit, how was your first week now in council? How did it go so far?
It went well. It went actually very good, Prof. Lots happening in Cape Town and lots that we are working towards. But what a privilege it is to be able to be a voice of truth and integrity in council. I also just want to send lots and lots of love to all those that was in council that actually, they showed so much respect for our late President Neil. They had such amazing things to say, and without a doubt, the whole sub-council and the whole council is really missing President Neil. Without a doubt, he left a huge footprint. He impacted many lives, and to me, that was the amazing highlight, to be able to hear from the councillors' mouths and from the chair's mouth just how much late President Neil meant to them. So the work needs to continue, Prof. And like I said, a massive privilege to be able to be a voice for the UIM and to be a voice of truth and integrity within the city of Cape Town.
Yes, good. As you know, the current president said, the best person was chosen to be there to take over from and to continue with the legacy there, so in the council for the UIM. But yeah, I just want to remind our listeners once again that this program, Straight Talk by the UIM, is a paid program by the United Independent Movement. All opinions, etc., what are being expressed on this program is not from Joy Radio, but strictly from the UIM itself, and therefore Joy Radio cannot be held liable or accountable for anything what has been said on this program. Now, that said by there, Chris, I know you are burning there where you're sitting. I know we're waiting for a couple of more guests to join us this evening. But I know you are burning there. I can see you jumping up and down to ask her something. I know you by now, so please go ahead.
Kurt, first and foremost, we're very proud of you. All right, know that. I've already asked you how you managed to shine your head so well that I've got an answer for. But we at the UIM are very proud of you. The right person was chosen for that opportunity, and an opportunity it is. I've got about 20 questions, but I've got to choose the one I have to ask. I'm sorry, I have to ask this. Are you going to be a little more delicate with certain people in council and not come out guns blazing when they do the wrong thing? Are you going to, I know that you are very critical of the truth. I know that you are very critical of certain ways to do things, and that's the right way. But, I think that you would, what's the word I'm looking for? You would surpass what we expect. That's what I know that. The question is, has Kurt softened, or has Kurt still got that he's going to go into council all fires blazing and fight for what is right without any sort of compromise? Or are you planning on negotiating a little bit?
Chris, I think you know exactly what I'm going to answer. You know that we don't have time to compromise. Right is right and wrong is wrong. I said it in council. I said I'm not here to make friends with anybody. I'm here to do a job, and that is to represent, the people of Cape Town. And by representing them, I'm speaking of speaking the truth, and having that stance of integrity intact. One of the councillors actually made a joke and they said to me, I look like I'm going to be worse than President Neil. And I said, that's exactly what's going to happen. Because like I said, and I want to remind our listeners that we only have one seat in council. So I actually felt exactly what it meant when David came up against Goliath. And I can say to our listeners, and I can say to you, Chris, I did not have one hair of fear upon me. I knew exactly why I'm there. I know exactly what needs to be done. And I'm not backing off, no matter what. I'm someone that sets the goals. I set the goals daily, and I work towards ticking those boxes off without a doubt. So when it comes to compromise, we don't have words like that within the UIM. We do things right, and that is it. If someone does something wrong, we address it in the right manner. We're not saying we're going to be always confrontational, but we're going to address it, and we're going to escalate it until it is resolved in a proper manner and with excellence. So I hope that answers your question, Chris.
Well, Kurt, you gave me the impression that you're not stuck in council with them. They are stuck in council with you.
Yeah, that is exactly what it is, Chris. That's exactly what it is. but I was welcomed very, very nicely. And there was a lot of talk where I can say to everyone now already, a lot of people went to go and do a lot of research with regards to where I come from, what my background is. So when I stepped in there, everybody knew who I was, and everybody knew exactly what I stood for, which is a good thing, especially when it comes to us only having one seat in council. So that really meant a lot, knowing that people have a lot of respect for us as the UIM.
Yeah, we can see, we can hear what Kurt is in council now, but phone doesn't stop ringing. But yeah, in the meantime, listeners, our other guest has joined us this evening, Sean Venter. He's from where the head office of South Africa is supposed to be, Pretoria. Daar by die gebou. Ja, hy is daar van Pretoria se wêreld af. Sean, baie welkom op Joy Radio vanaand. Jou eerste keer hier saam met ons.
Hallo. Ja, nou, it's eerste keer. Meneer Prof. Aubrey heeft mij gezegd, join in. Ik vroeg, okay, what time? Now 6:30, it's like, okay, let's do it. So, yeah, I'm here. It's the first time, already enjoying what I'm hearing and that. And, yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting.
Sean, you are one of the candidates for Pretoria area, for Swane.
Actually, I'm out for City of Joburg.
Okay.
Jacques Venter is at Swane side. But yeah, I'm one of the candidates at City of Joburg, Ward 70, Florida. And yeah, it's going to be a lot of work because there's a lot of things wrong here. And let's put it this way, the community is already starting to look up to me to try and get these things fixed, and I'm already starting to make headway. And yeah, start now. Whether I get elected on is going to be irrespective. I'm going to continue with the work and continue with the work that Neil started and continue with the work that UIM has planned, and we're just going to grow from there.
It's good to hear that. But Sean, sorry for that mistake. Soos hulle sê, elke ouetjie maak 'n foutjie, né? Can you give us listeners a bit of a background? Who is Sean Venter now actually? Where does Sean Venter comes from? How did Sean Venter comes to be a candidate for Joburg in the specific ward where you're going to stand for as a candidate?
Well, how far back do you want me to go? Because I can take you all the way back to when I was born in Hillbrow. But I don't think the listeners want to go through that story because unless they want to hear a nightmare, but it's not Halloween. So, yeah. Okay, so how I started is in 2020, around about August 2020. I was living in Roodepoort North and I was watching the area literally just carry on going down the tubes. I was watching how the ward councillor just, if I may say it bluntly, didn't care and give a damn at all. And I just thought to myself, nah, there's got to be better options. So I spoke to a friend of mine who was a reporter for the Roodepoort Record, and he said to me, why don't you go into politics? Why don't you become a councillor, make the changes? And I thought about it, and I thought it's a good idea, and I asked him what does he suggest? And he was pro-Action SA at the time. So I joined them. And I started, and I thought to myself, these guys are good. I did a lot of good work with them, caused a lot of headway on some projects that got completed now, finally, after 3-4 years. But then 2024, national elections came around, and Action SA did the one thing that they vowed they would never do, and that was join forces with the ANC. And at that point, I said, I can't. And I did a bit of introspect, and I dug through a lot of things, and I started noticing a lot of issues within Action SA. So I chose and I left them, and I thought to myself, I'm gone, what now? But I carried on. I carried on helping the community and everything. And then a UIM member, Albert, turned to me not too long after leaving Action SA, and he said, come, join the UIM. And I said to him, no, just give me a little bit of time. And then January this year, he approached me again and he said, you're going to join? And I thought to myself, you know what? Let me take a look. And I looked at the previous manifesto. I looked at the values, spoke with Albert, and I thought, you know what? UIM is definitely my home. And I joined. And even though for that time period, between around about August of 2024 and January 2025, even though I didn't have a political home, I was still helping the community. I still am. And yeah, I've never been happier. The UIM family has made me a member of the family and not just a member of a party. And that is also what makes them unique over the other parties. You're not just a party member. You're not just a party representative. You're a family member. And you grow from there.
Yeah, and Sean, if I may, I want to congratulate you on your appointment as Assistant Campaign Leader for the Gauteng Local Government Election 2026 Committee, where you with the campaign leader Benjamin Honeyball from Mfuleni in the Vaal Triangle will be spearing up the campaign for the election for Gauteng. Congratulations with that, and may you guys have all the success what you deserve to come your way.
No, thank you very much. And also, I just want to say thank you to the UIM members that firstly nominated me for it, and then also elected me. I was actually having a conversation earlier today with my two colleagues out here on the West Rand, and I said to them that when it comes to a nomination for such, in my opinion, a high level, I feel it should go to someone who knows UIM and who has the experience in that. And the fact that I got nominated and elected tells me that there's a lot of confidence in me. So it's also boosted my self-confidence. So it is a big honor, it's a big privilege, and I aim to make UIM proud, I aim to make Neil proud, and I aim to help to grow the UIM from strength to strength moving forward.
Yeah, thank you for that one. Thanks a million, Sean, for your insights. But yeah, you're not going anywhere. We want you to take part in the debates this evening on the points we're going to discuss. Yeah, listeners, unfortunately, our political guru tonight, Daniel, cannot join us. There's again that favorite friend came to visit. Hello, darkness, my old friend. And this time it's not the load shedding one. This time is the one where the cables again has been stolen. Chris actually earlier mentioned to me when that in the area where they can't stay abreast by replacing electrical cables, because once you reach the other end, and then your connections will already start stealing it at the other end again. So yeah, it is a problem. But yeah, we've got a couple of interesting topics Dan have actually set out for us for discussion this evening. And I want to start with the first one. And die Hofkap NASA se proses oor munisipale kragte tariewe. So yes, the court wasn't actually happy because NASA was taken to court regarding the increases in the power, etc. and so forth. We all know about that. What little mistake what they made. Somebody didn't know how calculator worked. And Eskom actually picked it up and they said, no, we want that couple of million back into our pockets. And when somebody said, some clerk made a mistake. But I want to bring Chris in here and maybe he can give us a bit more background on this court ruling regarding NERSA.
Prof, like it says, the proper procedures and protocols are not followed. So NASA just decided on their own to hike up an increase. The problem with this is that, if you look at it, at the how and the why, it's a significant check on the regulatory system. The governance is so weak that institutions will take a chance to do something like that, and once it's instituted and slipped through the government cracks, the public ends up suffering for this. If you look at the amount of increases we've had over the last couple of years.
Chris, if I can just quickly interrupt you quickly. Somewhere in the background, the radio or something is on, because we're getting echo feedback over the air. You guys can please just check, and those who are not on air, just mute your microphones, please. Okay, Chris, please continue. Sorry for that.
Yeah, the amount of increases that the public have to carry, it'd be a different thing if the public was earning the money to do it. It's everybody or every institution in government wants to try and bleed that rock so dry and wants to cripple this country completely. People are battling to eat, not even to keep the lights on. A loaf of bread is almost 20 rand. How do people sustain and live? And then you'll have an institution like NERSA who wants to slip this through the cracks so they can get their increases. And what's going to happen to their money? Is our infrastructure going to improve? I very much doubt that. It's unacceptable, Prof. It's unacceptable. You're always going to have some sort of corruption, but when it's this blatant, this is where the UIM has to step in and be that watchdog and continuously hammer these people for what they're trying to do to the poor South African public.
Yeah, well, one thing what was clear for me is actually that, on the ruling of this court case, actually compels everyone, municipalities, NERSA, and everyone, and so forth, to be more transparent about those tariffs increases and that, and not doing anything more behind closed doors around boardroom tables and hush and that. We all know about this increases was coming next year and so forth from Eskom side as well, and hopefully things can still change and things can still be turned around. But yeah, we will see when we get to that point. Now, the next point is around the American refugee program, and I see our government keep on, fighting against it, keep on revisiting it. Soos die opskrif gesê, Suid-Afrika se regering kap opnuut na die FSA vlugtelingprogram. Because I still think it's the facts that the Trump administration got is inaccurate, and there's no basis for that actually. And I actually want to ask Curtis, he on our councillor, are there any talk in the halls in council there in Pretoria side regarding this, Kurt? Maybe you got some inside information in this regard first.
Yeah, Prof, with regards to this, and it's actually very funny. It's looking like a tit for tat that is currently going on, when it comes to the US and when it comes to South Africa. Every time the US does something, then President Ramaphosa throws his toys out of the car. So it's become something very, very common that has taken place. And currently, it's at the expense of South Africans. Is is really not looking at the implications. He's really not looking at the bigger picture with regards to how it is affecting us as South Africans. As we discussed a few weeks ago, Prof, we actually realized that because of the tariffs and because of a lot of certain things that has gone up, it affected our economy in a huge way. There's NPOs that needed to shut down. There's people that has lost jobs. There's all sorts of things that is really going. The prices of the things is skyrocketing. But when it comes to the refugee matter itself, everybody's speaking about it being more of a bluff than anything else, where the president is actually trying to twist Donald Trump's arm in some way, where he will actually feel sorry for us, and where they will actually set a meeting up where they can resolve these matters. But it is clear as day, even with regards to what we see, what is happening with China currently, there's a lot of investment that has bypassed us as South Africans, that has gone to other African countries, which is really an eye-opener with regards to what is really going on behind the scenes when it comes to these type of matters.
Yeah, I don't know why the government worries so much about this anyway, because, I mean, the Trump administration also made it not clear. There's only, I think, another 1,700 or so forth, refugees, what we're going to allow. I personally feel that the government wants to keep everyone prison here where they can keep them prison so that they can have control over them. They don't want anybody to escape this prison. And this is actually what happens here. Trump is giving them a get-out jail free card. And I saw this week, I read on an article that the criteria for people to go over has been spelled out specifically. And so it is not just that you do an application and boom, bong, and there you go. Now, there's certain criteria that you need to have in place, what they meet you against. But another interesting one, what was in the news this week, and we know about the story about the Basuris who fled, that prophet, apostle, and Chris, Kurt, yourself, you're also a prophet. And I mean, South Africa applied for extradition. The lower court said yes, he can be extradited. And they went to the High Court there, and the High Court said no, that is not going to happen, because there were certain, once again, flaws like when we applied for extradition of the Guptas, and but are still not been extradited due to flaws in the process. Mistakes, smaller, probably one of our clerk made on the application form or something. But here they also said that the Basuris, their lives is in danger when they get back to South Africa. And just after that court ruling, guys, what happened? They made also a statement, and here they also implicated high-level generals and stuff, where it's in front of the Makantla Commission and in front of the Parliament Commission and so forth. So the thing is, they are not going to be extradited. That is a point. That is a fact. Government says, the department says, they are revisiting it. They're going to look at it because they want them back here. I don't think they're going to happen that. But the point what I want to come to is interesting and I think you guys down there, probably in the Eastern Cape, Western Cape areas, you're not as, we're up here in Gauteng and these areas because ARTO, the new ARTO law, comes into effect 1 December for 69 municipalities. And before we came on to air, I saw there's an article that came out, but specifically Cape Town have asked that they need to get a go-free pass. but it would not to be implemented there. My personal view, why only start with just 69? If you implement it countrywide one shot. Hoekom het julle ouens voorkeur kry bokant ons? And I want to bring Sean in here first of all. Because it's going to affect him as well up here in the West Rand. Because we in Gauteng are definitely affected by this.
Well, Prof, in a way, I welcome the R2 law and I despise the R2 law. I welcome it because, in Joburg alone, we've got so many taxis where, number one, the taxis themselves are unroadworthy. Number two, the drivers are unlicensed. So now with this demerit system, it might bring a bit more control over that. But the question will remain, how many of these drivers, not just taxi drivers, regular drivers, will be able to bypass the fines and all of that with a quick, if I may say it, KFC meal, to the JMPD officers or to the SAPS officers or whoever. Because at the moment, there's no accountability on that aspect. So I feel the R2 law can actually work, and I agree with you 100%. If they want to implement it, they have to implement it nationwide. You can't say that we will implement it over here, but not over there. It's like in a school. You can't, if you look at schools, when schools started allowing the young men to grow beards, that was because the Islamic students would read through the Quran, and once you've completed reading through the Quran, you go through your rite of passage, and after that you're allowed to grow a beard, which is a sign of your religion, a sign that you've completed the tasks. And schools had a rule that no boy may have a beard. And the Islamic students started saying, but it's our religion and all of that, so they started allowing that. And then it brought up the question of, if you can allow the Islamic boys to grow a beard, you need to allow children of other religions to also do things that's based on their religion. Like, for example, the Rastafarians. They were then allowed to start wearing their Rasta outfits and their Rasta hair and all of that. But that was because they brought up the point that if you allow one, you have to allow all. And with the R2 Act, as you said, if you're going to start it, don't start it with only a few of the municipalities. Start it nationwide. Every municipality should fall under it. Because now you're going to have someone from Uppington, for example, where the R2 Act doesn't actually fall under them. They get a fine in Joburg. Now, they can't get a demerit because their municipality doesn't cover it, and vice versa. I go to Uppington where the R2 law doesn't apply. I go and I cause havoc, I break the laws of the road there. I'm in Joburg, I don't I don't have any demerits because I broke the law there. I pay my fines, I don't pay my fines, all of that. Also, the other aspect of it is they want to implement the R2 Act and the R2 laws based on historical fines. Now, I know many people that have told me that they're getting emails, especially from Pay City, about fines from 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, even 10 years ago. And they've never received any notices on these fines. So the question that I have is, what are they going to do about those? Are they going to write those fines off before they implement R2? Or are they going to include it? And if they're going to include it, how are they going to provide the evidence that these people who got these fines actually received the notices as per the law? Because the law states that if you do get a traffic infringement, you have to get a registered letter with the infringement in, and you basically have to sign for that registered letter. Now, I know many people, as soon as they get that paper to say that there is a registered letter, they don't even bother going to fetch the letter, and then they turn around and say, oh, but I never received the notice. So what's going to happen with all those fines? Because there we are talking about probably millions of rands in fines that's still uncollected, and the municipalities cannot collect on them because of the fact that, number one, there's no evidence that these fines were actually delivered. Number two, the time frame of these fines is too long. So I want to know, what are they going to do about that? Are they going to write that off? Or are they going to find a way to swindle those fines as part of the R2 Act? And unless they can give us a definite method and a definite way to confirm that these fines are either not going to be part of the R2 law, but the people will still be held accountable for them, or that these fines are going to be scrapped and written off, I don't really see this R2 law being properly functional. I can see so many people going to courts and fighting those fines and fighting those demerits, especially if it is going to be put onto them on historical fines. You know, fines that's like 5 years old, 10 years old, 20 years old. Fines on cars that they haven't owned for the last 5 years, 10 years, you know. But yeah, it is probably going to have quite a high impact. And I can see one thing that's going to happen is people are going to start turning around and saying, you know what, give me the demerits. I don't care. You don't want to sort out the taxis. You don't want to hold taxi bosses to account for their unroadworthy taxis and their unlicensed taxis. So why must I now pay a fine? And why must I even bother renewing my car and renewing my driver's license if you're not even willing to implement the laws of the country and the laws of the municipality against public transportation?
Yeah, thanks for that, Sean. Okay, I want to, en Kurt, jy gaan nou dink ek pak op vir jou vanaand, want voor ek na Chris toe gaan, want ek het gou daai artikel gaan opsoek. Kyk hier, die oorblywende munisipaliteite in die land sê hulle gaan 1 April in werking kom, maar nou, en ek wil net gou quoteer wat hierdie artikel hierso sê, vra die Metroraad in Kaapstad en verskeie omliggende munisipaliteite dat die beker by hulle moet verbygaan. En dit is nou die munisipaliteite van Kaapstad self, Swellendam, Stellenbosch, George, Mosselbaai, Bergrivier en Piketberg het gevra vrystelling van die volgende fases van implementering van die R2. Nou, Kurt, ek weet, jy is nou maar onlangs wat jy nou daar so saam met daai manne sit. Wat is jou gevoel? Dink jy julle gaan suksesvol wees hierin? Of nie?
Yeah, Prof, the truth is, how long have they been speaking about this? How long have they been trying to push this? And the truth is that, honestly, I don't think South Africa is ready and all set up for this R2 law, especially when it comes to the systems that needs to be put in place. Without a doubt, South Africa is not ready for this. I know there's been a lot of pressure with regards to getting it up and running, up in Cape Town or in the Western Cape specifically, but there's a lot of talk with regards to the systems not being ready. So I know I've heard, Prof, you said that out in Gauteng they said it will be up and running by the 1st of December.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is the systems in place? They should be honest with the public. Obviously, to me, I personally think this is a scare tactic that is being used with regards to this. And obviously, just another strategy from the ANC government. Try to scare them just to make our pockets full for the festivities during December. That is what I personally think what is happening. And I want to say to our listeners that the systems for the R2 law is not yet ready. So that is my personal opinion with regards to that, Prof. And like I said, lots of talk happening with regards to that out in Cape Town, and lots of attention is not being given to it. There's talk about it, and nobody's concerned about it because obviously we know the systems is far from ready.
But Kurt, do you think you guys down there gonna get it right to get that this cup passes by you, that it won't be implemented by your side on 1 April, that you guys is gonna win this with because I see you got quite a lot of municipalities who are standing behind Cape Town to fight for this, that it should go, that the cup should pass.
Yeah, Prof. Personally, I think that we're going to win this. We're going to win this. Why I'm saying that is because obviously we know this is the agenda that is being pushed by the ANC, and that is why we're going to fight it.
Okay, but now once again, I mean, and maybe Chris can come in here for us. I mean that Cape Town Metro is not an ANC-run metro, and that's why we're going to say that's why we are against it. I mean, there by your side, Chris, in the Eastern Cape, that municipalities is run by ANC coalition, and yeah, so 1 April it's going to come to you guys, but Sean made a very important comment earlier, but you know, it's not just up here, but it's all over the country with taxis, but just doing what we want to do. How are they going to govern that? Because now, I mean, the owner and whose name the taxi is registered, all those fines, that points is going to come against him if they cannot get that driver. I can see riots coming again. I can see a lot of things in what's going to happen with this whole thing again. Chris, your point on that, please. Yeah, I also feel like that.
Prof, I'll start by answering one of the questions that were asked by Sean. The only time we will know for sure when it's being implemented is when you see a spike in the building of Kentucky Fried Chicken buildings. That's number one.
Nando's? McDonald's?
Every time it's going to be implemented. Yes, I do believe it is a bit of a scare tactic. You know, it's this time of the year where bonuses have to be earned. You look at South Africa as one machine that prints your licenses. How are they going to possibly implement something like this? This reminds me of what is that toll system in Joburg when you drove past it and it picked up, I think,
e-toll, yeah.
That was,
yeah, the e-toll.
I believe there were people that owed hundreds of thousands of rands and never really bothered to pay it. And now it's fallen by the wayside. It's another pink elephant. The implementation of this, you know, I don't think we have the infrastructure. We can't even keep the lights on, and that is just done with a switch. How are they going to do something like this, especially to the national taxi service? It's 100 billion rand a year service, the taxi industry. They can't even claim tax from them. So how are they going to possibly implement something like this? No. I have to agree. This is government's way, if they do manage to get it implemented, just to plunder more money out of people. You know, I'm fully behind law and order, but taxis, for example, are law unto themselves. They don't care. 80% of and I've seen this, where a taxi would just run a red robot and the traffic cop is standing at the red robot and he just looks the other way. So no, they won't be able to implement it, especially not now. Not for the next year or two. And if they do manage to implement it, it's going to be another parastatal, another failed enterprise.
Yeah, you know, matter of fact, you spoke about the e-toll, Chris. I've read another article regarding that. But what was said that people need to be aware of that national government covered that debt, what had to be written off, when they had to stop the whole thing. But people are still being taken on and receiving letters of demand and accounts to pay it. So they still try to get extra money out of people. So they will.
Prof, can I just hop in here quickly?
Yeah, sure, Kurt.
Yeah. Prof, you really should speak to the local government out in Gauteng, because they've been sending me fines for e-toll and fines on one of the highways there, saying that I'm an owner of trucks. So they've been sending it to me for years. But I mean, if I was gullible, and if I was somebody that would lose my marbles if I get a letter of demand or anything like that, and a lot of people, they would just go, listen, let me just go pay this, let me go sort that out. But in actual fact, the fine is not yours. You don't own the vehicle, but everybody is concerned about having a clear name. So ask yourself, Prof, how much people has actually gone and paid fines that was not theirs? I mean, I've been getting fines for a quantum that I don't own. From the city of Cape Town, I've never owned a quantum. But why should we go to the traffic department to go and tell them that they made a mistake? They know they're making a mistake, but they know there's people out there that will be gullible enough to pay it. Even though it's not theirs, they will still go and pay it. So those are the type of injustices, those are the type of dishonesty that we are really seeing. So those are the type of things that we should really look at those type of things. Yes, I know, as Sean said, yes, the taxis have their own laws, they have a government on their own that they're running amongst themselves. But the truth is, when they walking in by a traffic department and they have 10 warrants, or they need to go and pay fines, they have 10 warrants. They are not locked up there. They're not locked up. The warrants are being paid. And then most of the times the prosecutor asks, okay, how much do you have there? So that is how they do it. So I mean, is that really the right type of consequences with regards to them breaking the laws or the traffic acts? Is it the right type of consequences? No. But
absolutely not. Absolutely not.
To me personally, there's a lot of changes that needs to be made, not just within our different provinces, but in the country as a whole.
But that's why we need to. That's why we need to get the right people in the right positions with the next elections. That people need to vote with their sound minds and not with propaganda. In the end of the day, but yeah, quickly, Sean.
If I may just jump onto what Kurt just said, with him getting fines for a quantum that he never owned. That's something that's been going on for years. My sister had an accident, probably almost 20 years ago. And her car was just impounded in one of these tow truck yards. She actually still doesn't even know where that car is. She's actually written the car off. She's actually done everything. And she's still getting fines on that number plate till today for another car. And that also brings to what Kurt said. Now, with this R to Act, how are they going to be curbing that? It is so easy nowadays to go and steal a number plate off another car, put it on your car, drive, do what you want, rake up all these fines, and the person who actually owns that number plate, they have to pay it, you know? And that's the problem that was already with the e-tolls. I remember hearing a story of a guy who got a 10,000 Rand e-toll bill for his son's bicycle. What was the most confusing about it is his son was 5 years old, and he was asking, what the heck is a 5-year-old doing riding his bicycle on the highway? So they need to, first fix the system, the entire system, the traffic system, before they can actually implement these things. And this was already told to them when they wanted to implement e-tolls. Fix the system, fix the taxis, fix how you find people and how you trap people before you can implement that. And then also public participation is extremely important, and that has not properly happened, even though they threatened the demerit system and the R2 system for years. There hasn't been proper public participation. And as Kurt has said, what's going to happen now is you're going to have people that's riding a car, they're going to have your number plate, you're going to get the fine, you're going to get the demerits, and you're going to get some people who just don't want those demerits on their system, and they're just going to go and pay. They're not going to fight it. They're not going to go and question it, you know? They're just going to go, oh, it's 150, I'll just go pay it. Oh, it's 200, I'll just go pay it, you know?
Yeah, well,
and one day when they get a fine of 2,000 Rand, 3,000 Rand, what are they going to do? Oh, I'm just going to go pay it. No, then only will they fight it. And by that time, it might just be too late.
Yeah, gullible. Right, guys, the last point I want to do before we go over to our main topic is 2 points what I want to bring together. We've heard this week that the IEC declared that they are ready for next year's election. They actually set out a date. What they recommend now to the president is the first Wednesday of November next year, of November 2026. Now we know that the president of this beautiful country of ours needs to now proclamate it, and it needs to go in the government gazette to make it official, to say that is the date what the next election is going to be for local government election. But with that, the IEC also came and they said that apparently there's about 62 new parties since 2024, and I think that total actually have escalated higher already by now. What have registered additionally to contest in the 2026 elections. Now, I know Chris done a bit of research on this, and he looked at it, and I see he's raring to go to give us some insight in this regard.
Thank you, Prof. You know, if you look at our last elections here, and I stand under correction, I think it was 18.1 or 19.1 million people voted. Okay. You now have between 500 and 600 parties that are now registered. One could say that people have the right to register their own party and a political party, and they do have their own right to do that. But it does lead to where people are tired of current government and want to change. You've got to be realistic. If governance was governed properly, if this country was governed properly, if it was safe, if the crime rate was way down, if the cost of living was manageable for even the poor, there would not be so many political parties, because people would be quite happy and content with what they have. You would be left with a situation where you'd have a government, an opposition, and maybe a handful, let's say 10 parties. But to have between 500 and 600 parties, you've got to, what people don't realize is it costs money to register a party. It costs money to contest elections, to contest each and every ward. So these new parties have the firm belief that if they don't register a party and actually do something about the way this country is being managed, run, and flushed down the toilet, they've got to register a party. But from my personal opinion, I do believe that people should consider before, or those that want to register a political party should actually take the time out, Google, research the existing parties that are there, and possibly consider joining the smaller parties that align with what they want to do. I mean, we've got parties that are, and I say this respectfully to all our listeners, that are white-based, colored-based, African-based, Afrikaans-based. But we are the only party that is South African-based. And people need to read our manifesto. They need to read up about the UIM. This business of, I only want this nation and I only want Afrikaans people, I only want English people. We need to get past that as South Africans. Long past it. It's dead. It died a horrible death in 1994. And it's only certain political institutions that are keeping that alive. So these 500 to 600 political parties, do your research and you will probably find that the UIM is exactly what you are looking for.
Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you. I saw that our president have just joined us. Jacques, goeienaand en welkom.
Goeienaand, Prof. Good evening, Sean. Hi, Kurt. Hi, Chris. Sorry for coming in on the back end of this conversation and this live broadcast. I had some things to attend to, unfortunately, tonight, but I'm ready to say a few things on our main topic, or just maybe give the UIM's opinion on this last topic that you are going to bring up shortly.
Yeah, you're just in time for it, Jacques. And as I said to our listeners when we start off, attorneys also have to work late a bit sometimes, It's not always a 9 to 4 or 9 to 3 cushy job, But a lot of people think attorneys doesn't work, but just go and stand there in court and say a couple of words and pocket the money. No, there's a lot of hard work going on behind the scenes as well.
Prof, attorneys that also part of political parties work extra hard.
That is for sure. And I think that we all can give evidence of that. And the last couple of weeks you have worked very, very hard behind the scenes, Jacques. And we really appreciate it. And that's why we're all very proud to be part of this party and very proud to have you as our president.
Thank you, Prof.
Right. Let's go to our main topic. Toxic working environments, bullying in the workplace. Now, listeners, you remember a while ago we spoke about bullying, but then we concentrated specifically on the schools and so forth. But a lot of people don't realize it actually happens in workplaces as well. Bullying is just running vrywees in the workplaces. Now, this comes to light after articles surfaced in the media about Dr. Karen Stander, because she resigned as chair of a national student financial aid scheme due to a toxic work environment categorized as racism, bullying, and intimidation. Now, I mean, in any work environment, this is a very, very serious concern. And I mean, this is serious allegations as well. Now, according to this article, that Dr. Stander was appointed to lead a newly constituted National Student Financial Aid Scheme and to lead it after the previous board was dissolved and the entity was placed under administration after the repeated failure to pay student grants. Now, obviously, I mean, she came in, new broom, start to sweep clean, start to get all those cockroaches and stuff out of the corners of the cupboards and everything and that, and they didn't like it. So what do? They have to make a plan to get rid of her. So that's when it starts with intimidation, for bullying, racism, the intimidation, and everything that goes with it. And I mean, because this is so high profile, that is why it reached the news. En ek gaan hom maar buite tale gooi bietjie vanaand hierso op hierdie ene. Sodra jy 'n gevaar raak in enige werksplek, gaan jy met hierdie goed begin ondervind. Die probleem is in vandag se tyd, as jy van 'n sekere etniese groep af is en jy verteenwoordig 'n sekere geslag, dan vat jy dit maar eerder, jy bly stil, want jy is te bang om jou mond oop te maak, want jy is bang jy gaan jou werk verloor, en daar is nie werk in hierdie land nie. Ons almal weet waar die ekonomie in hierdie land huidiglik is, en wat se werksgeleenthede daar is. So, dan bly jy maar stil, en jy vat dit maar bekend, soos ons maar altyd sê, en jy druk maar net voort. Maar hierdie is meer, dit is absoluut, hoe kan ek wil dit so stel, dit gebeur meer in werksplekke, as wat ons werklik waar besef. And I think as the listeners want to be openly truthful this evening, when they will come forward and say, but you know, it's happening at our workplace, it's happening at our workplace, it happened to me, it happened to my wife, it happened to my husband. My question, these big parties that call themselves big and got big mouths and sitting in parliament and sitting in local government and that, what are they doing to curb this? Because it's happening in government structures as well. What are they doing? Well, I can tell you what they're doing. Absolutely zero. And then the outside line is still erased as well. So they're doing absolutely nothing about it. Yes, now a party will make a bit of a noise about it, but in 2 days' time, it's forgotten, they move on to something else, because there's something else that's more sensational for them, what people are going to sit up and say, ooh, maybe we should vote for them. And guys, I mean, maybe any one of you have experienced something like this in your lifetime, or know if people have experienced it, but I heard last night that somebody made a comment regarding the UIM that said, you know, the advantage of a UIM is that the UIM is a virgin party. The UIM hasn't been contaminated yet, and I doubt if it's going to be contaminated. Because I know if contamination comes in, we've got a president what's going to root that contamination out very quickly. Daai kanker sal ons baie vinnig uitgesny word en van ontslaag geraak word. Want soos wat ons die UIM nou is, so gaan hy bly en so moet hy bly. Want dit is al hoe ons dinge gaan regkry. So, I mean, at the end of the day, that this Dr. Stander had no other option. I mean, if your living conditions or your working conditions is hell, do you want to stay there? I wouldn't want to. And so she resigned. So what's going to happen now? Is that funds now going to still be paid? Where did that funds, what wasn't being paid, was that canalized? We still haven't got answers to that. So, Kurt, Kurt, kom ons begin by jou. Kan jy 'n bietjie vir ons jou opinie op hierdie ding, asseblief?
Just, can you repeat that last one, Prof?
I said, can you just give us your opinion regarding this racism, bullying, intimidation within the workplaces? And I mean, it happens not just in a normal working environment. This happens in government spheres as well. Local, provincial.
Yes, Prof. Yeah, yes, Prof. I know there's actually a couple of matters that I'm aware about that has actually happened within the SAPS, where a lot of its members was put through so much things intentionally, which actually forced them to resign from the SAPS. And it's something that has been coming on for some time already. But even the police members themselves are afraid to go and seek help. They don't know where to go. And especially with regards to what is happening now internally, when they do go and seek help, somehow and some way, they are the ones that has been turned into the villain in the whole thing. So a lot of the members have lost really that commitment and that fire to really serve and protect, because daily they are faced with challenges within the workplace, especially with regards to bullying. So it's something that is very, very common.
Yeah, no, and I just want to quote something what Dr. Steiner said. He said, unfortunately, the environment in which the council functioned became increasingly toxic, characterized by bullying, intimidation, racism, and hostility. These conditions have made it impossible to continue to perform our duties effectively and in good conscience. And then she added, she said, in recent months, this hostility has also expanded beyond the professional sphere, creating a real and present danger to the safety and well-being of my family. Now, that is very concerning for me. That is concerning for me. And Chris, I don't know if you got a point, a standpoint on this.
Prof, in the work environment, I'm sorry, there are so many ways that they can intimidate you, physically, emotionally, pile on work, force you to work longer hours. It's all part of the intimidation scenario that they use. The bottom line here is that they want to pay you X, but they want X, Y, Z from you in return. Sorry, failure to do that, and the intimidation will start. Be it they harass you, they pile on work, sexual harassment, be it color of your skin, be it something. I've experienced that, where entries was made into my spreadsheets after I'd handed them in, and eventually you can't really fight it. And in this country, according to Section 60 of the EEA Act, employees have to put things in place that protect the employees. But any employee that runs to HR with a complaint becomes a target. So it's a double-edged sword when it comes to that sort of thing. And eventually you ask, is my health worth the job I'm doing? And, when there's large amounts of money that are involved, people that do the intimidating will go to extreme lengths to make your life hell. That is just a fact of how they do things. But when it starts going to threatening your family and threatening your livelihood outside the workplace, they cross a line. The problem is, what is government going to do about it?
Yeah, well, that is a good question, Chris. Really a good question. Let's bring Sean in here and get his point of view on this topic.
Well, Prof, I'll be honest, my sister is actually the IR specialist, so she knows the laws and that. But I myself have learned quite a lot about it. But this topic is actually one that touches close to home. Basically, my sister worked at a state-owned entity, and she had seen a lot of that happening. She worked for a union, or she was a representative for a union, and she also had many people come in with those issues: bullying, intimidation, threats, all of that sort of stuff. And for my sister, it actually got to a point where the entity she was working for actually had to provide her with bodyguards because her life was being threatened. Yep. That's the extent of all of this. And that was a state-owned entity. I know someone else who just recently took her company to the CCMA because she resigned because of exactly the same thing. Now, I'm chosen not to mention their name. I've also chosen not to mention the company because part of the agreement was that there would be no mention of either of the two. But what I can tell you is that this company deals with municipal tenders and state-owned tenders. And at one point, this person was asked to do a budget for one of these entities, And all of a sudden, after that budget, she started getting targeted. Her fellow employees, who she thought was her friends, were forced and blackmailed to do police affidavits stating that she had exposed information to other employees within the company. And they were told that if you don't do the affidavit, you're going to be fired. That's the extent that that company went to try and keep hush. Now, we have our speculations on why they did that. But unfortunately, unless we have the hard proof as to that is the reason, there's not really much we can do. But the problem was that they started a so-called investigation. And I say so-called because at CCMA, they claimed so many things that were not true, and so many things that they were going to do, but yet while she was at this company, they already said they had done it. So we don't know if they had done it or not. But it actually pushed her to a semi-breakdown. They moved her from a position, they pushed her and put her at reception with no computer. She couldn't touch work. She wasn't allowed to talk with anyone within the company. And the senior managers were walking past her, giving her a look, and then skinnering, if I may use that term, about her to other employees. And that is also a form of intimidation. And it pushed her to a point where by 11 o'clock that day, she just couldn't anymore. She came home, went to the doctor booked her off for the rest of that week with an anxiety disorder and for stress, all because of those actions. And it is something that's happening all over, in government, in municipalities, in workplace. But it all boils down to the Labour Department. Now, prior to this event, when this woman started noticing something wasn't right, she confided in me. And I tried to assist her by bringing it to the attention of the Labour Department. This is 3 months ago. I'm still waiting for the Labour Department to get back to me on any investigations that they've done or anything, and they haven't. And when I try to query it, I still don't get any answers. So even though, as Chris has said, companies are supposed to enforce labour laws to allow that an employee has a place of employment that is conducive to their health and their good health. So they're not allowed to do things that can push you on a mental level, you know? And if something like that happens, it doesn't help running to HR, because what's HR going to do? They're going to report it to the person that you're complaining about. That person's probably going to deny it, and you're all sitting at square one. HR department is supposed to keep record of these things, and not all HR departments do that. This company that I was talking about, the biggest problem there is that the owner's wife runs human resources. Now, how do you complain about the owner, who is the one doing the bullying and the intimidation, to his wife? How do you do that? You can't. When his son-in-law is also doing the intimidation and the bullying and that, how do you complain to his mother-in-law? You can't. So it ends up pushing people to that point where they've got two options. They either, as I think it was Chris or Kurt, I can't remember, said, take a shot on the chin, or you resign for your own mental health. And both ways, you end up putting yourself into a bad spot, because if you resign, you then can't claim UIF. And if you do claim UIF, it takes 6, 7, 8 months, sometimes even a year before UIF will even consider paying you out, okay? And if you don't resign and you sit in this environment, it's your own mental health that's happening. And my mom, she was a school teacher, and she had a lot of stress because she was the only teacher for the subject that she was teaching. There was no other teachers. And she was teaching almost 2,000 students, almost 2,000. So that is a heck of a lot of stress for one person. The school refused to bring in someone else. They blatantly refused. it actually reached a point where my mom had a complete mental breakdown, which landed up in a mental hospital. After getting out of that hospital, a week later, she had a second breakdown, which resulted in her landing in a coma. That was because of the stress of the workload at school. Now, the question is, can we get the Labour Department to actually do their job? Because if the Labour Department does their job and starts enforcing the labour laws as per the Labour Relations Act within companies, irrespective of whether you are a small company, a municipality, a government entity, or even the government itself, if they can start actually enforcing the laws and start acting on the tip-offs that they receive, then bullying and racism and all those things within the workplace can actually, I can't say can be stopped, but can be reduced to a minimum.
Yes, I hear what you're saying. I think we got the right person on the panel who came in, and that's our president, to answer that for us, because but before we go to him, I just want to say that Benjamin said, evening everyone, bullying is a problem in all areas, and the worst bullying is when unions are meant to defend workers, yet in some workplaces they become the bullies. How can one then restore accountability in these situations? And Kurt said, we mustn't forget about the sexual harassment as well, what goes with us, right? And that's why I want to bring Jacques in now, our president. And Jacques, the thing is just, this is a major problem. And I mean, we all know when you dismiss unfairly and constructive dismissal and so forth, CCMA is there. But if you resign, you've got no recourse, because if you feel you just cannot carry on. Maybe you can enlighten us a bit, and I'm going to give you 10 minutes to spell it out for us the best as you can from your legal point of view, please.
Thanks, Prof. Yeah, before I get to that, Chris asked a question earlier, and he said, what's government going to do about this? And I've actually got the answer. Government's not going to do anything about it. Mm-hmm. That's why we need to change government. The thing is, these are the things that we just spoke about. These are all byproducts of government's failures and incompetence in the last 30 years. There's certain areas or that affect South Africans daily. These are probably the most important. Let's call them areas or points or whatever that affect our lives dramatically every single day. That is safety and security, healthcare, employment, education, and religion. And all of those areas are experiencing significant difficulties and problems and issues because of government's incompetence and failures over the past 30 years. And these are, like I said, these are things that, these are priorities in terms of our well-being and livelihoods in South Africa as citizens of this country. And they are all adversely affected. And if we just have to pick one of them, we're discussing employment now and we're discussing bullying at the workplace. We are definitely going to get to all of those other points as well, those other areas. We're going to cover all of them in future broadcasts. I mean, we deal with CCMA matters every single day at our law firm. We deal with medical negligence issues. I just had a discussion today with a lady that brought the case to our law firm that concerns a medical negligence issue or claim. And the stories that she told me was horrific of what happened to her mom in hospital. So these are all things that we are going to cover in future, but these are all very important areas that where government is failing us. Government's fail. I'm just going to give you examples. Government's failure and incompetence. In terms of employment, we all know what the employment rate is in South Africa. We all know that we are governed by laws, discriminatory laws like BEE, that has, had a huge, massive, detrimental impact on our economy. We have been forced into situations where where both parents of families have to work. That is damaging family structures and dynamics. That leads to other social issues that we can also build a whole discussion around.
our border policies, the enforcement of border protection in South Africa, the influx of illegal aliens and immigrants into South Africa. These are people that come here that take South African citizens' jobs. And that's also because, unfortunately, they are being also exploited by employers in South Africa because, these people will work for any kinds of wages, and the employers in South Africa are exploiting it. So illegal immigration, discriminatory legislation and policies, these are all things that are byproducts of the government's failures and incompetence in the last 30 years. It's affecting our daily lives. It's affecting the economy. It's affecting safety and security, healthcare, employment, education, religion. I just want to give you a couple of examples. I'm quickly jumping from one topic to the next in terms of bullying at the workplace. I don't think people realize what bullying in the workplace actually entails. I want to read a few examples here. Bullying at the workplace also includes verbal abuse, insults, threats, and humiliation. It includes excessive or unfair criticism and monitoring, spreading malicious rumors or false information, excluding or isolating employees from work or social activities, setting unrealistic deadlines and unfair workload distribution, denial of leave without valid reasons, sending aggressive emails and messages. These are just a few examples of the types of bullying that takes place in the workplace. And if you think about it, we spend 80% of our lives in some kind of at an office or doing some kind of work or in some kind of employment for those of us that are lucky enough to have a job. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of time spent working every single day. And I can just imagine, when people come home at night after a long day of work and you're working at a place where you are getting abused and bullied. You can just imagine how that affects family life. Sean mentioned that the way it affects people's mental health and stability. And those lead to a whole bunch of other issues and problems. So these are things that we as the UIM are going to pay particular attention to, because these are the things that affect South Africans. And this is also why we bring up these topics and why we discuss these topics every week, because we want to discuss relevant issues. We want to discuss things that affect South Africans. We don't want to always just constantly talk about political issues abroad and international issues. Yes, there's a lot of stuff happening in the world at the moment. There's horrible things happening. There's wars that are being waged. But we've got our own problems here on domestic level here in South Africa. And like Chris said, what's government going to do about it? The people need to understand that the government's not going to do anything about it. We need to change this government. Otherwise, we're going to continue heading down the same path that we've been heading down for the last 30 years. And it's not getting better, it's getting worse. Now, getting back to, Prof, the legal side that you wanted to discuss in terms of resignations and unfair dismissal. Look, there is legal recourse for people that are being bullied and abused at the workplace. You don't necessarily have to take it. I know people are, because of this dire economical situation that we face, and because jobs are so scarce, people will do anything to keep their jobs or to ensure that they receive an income every month, even if it's to their own detriment, unfortunately. There is such a thing that's as constructive dismissal. Constructive dismissal is when you resign because of pressure and bullying and abuse that you are experiencing at the workplace. Constructive dismissal is seen as an unfair dismissal. It's something that you can obviously go to the CCMA with. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to take it on the chin. You can resign. But obviously the onus will be on the employer then to prove that he or she was abused or mistreated at the workplace, or that working environment was, so bad that they had no other reason but to resign. Then it's a normal CCMA process that follows. Same with an unfair dismissal. Obviously, there's conciliation that takes place first to see if the employee and the employer can reach an agreement. If no agreement is reached, then obviously that is then referred to for arbitration, which means that the employee is then allowed to have legal representation or a representative as well. And then obviously the arbitrator then makes a decision, which is a binding decision. It's like a court order that either party has to comply with. And if, let's say, for instance, the employer doesn't comply with that decision or that judgment, then obviously there's, you can approach the labor court to make sure that that judgment is enforced. So there is a process, the CCMA process. It works. We have tested it before. But like I said, I know people are reluctant to follow these steps because, at most you can get, obviously, I think it's a year's worth of salary payment, depending on how long you've worked for a company. But in most cases, it's 3 months or less, which means 3 months after you have approached the CCMA and received your third and final payment, you have to now start looking for work again. So I know people are sometimes reluctant to approach the CCMA or to follow this course of action because, like I said, jobs are scarce and people will do anything to hold on to their jobs and to make sure that they earn an income for their family. But you know what, if you want to trace this all the way back to its the root cause of the problem, once again, unfortunately, we're going to have to say that this is something that unfortunately has become such a huge issue because of government's incompetence and failures over the last 30 years. People don't understand the ripple effect that having poor leadership in this country has. It affects us in more ways than one. And if you really have to draw a graph one day or paint a picture or connect the dots, I think people will get a shock to see how one action leads to another action or another reaction, which leads to another reaction, which leads to another reaction. And at the end of the day, this snowball becomes as big as a mountain. So the long and the short of it is that we need to, once again, like we say every single week, we need to start at the root cause of the problem and make sure that we appoint adequate, competent, proper leadership in this country, leadership that cares about the people and leadership that will pay special attention to these areas that I have mentioned tonight, which is obviously, I'll repeat them, safety and security, healthcare, employment, education, and religion. I'm not even touching on service delivery or basic service delivery here. That's a whole topic on its own. But these 5 areas that I mentioned now, these are very, very important for, the livelihoods and the well-being of all South Africans. And they are the ones that are most affected by this circus that unfortunately has been happening in South Africa for the last 30 years.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true, Jacques. Thank you very much. Well, listeners, that is the legal point from the president of the UIM, Jacques Taljaard, and the standpoint of the UIM on this. End of the day, we, the citizens of this country, we've got the power in our hands to make the final, or to have a final say. And, if you don't go and vote, then you give that vote away to somebody else who haven't got your interest at heart. And unfortunately, that has been proven over and over again. And once again, you need to make a decision. And I just want to give each one of the panel 30 seconds. Our time is basically up. And just to say final words and to say goodbye. Before we end the program. Chris, can we start with you?
Well, it's my age-old thing. How did your last vote work out for you? Do the right thing. Vote UIM.
And I think we're going to make that the official slogan on this program. Thank you, Chris. Kurt? I think it's because he said to me earlier he's got a bit of problem. They've got connection problems with internet down there. Sean, your last 30 seconds, please.
Well, I'm going to say the one thing that I've been saying to many people, especially people who complain. Did you vote? If you didn't vote, don't complain. It's quite simple. Vote UIM, get us in, we can fix it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Jacques, laaste woorde van jou af asseblief.
Yes, Prof. I will also follow Chris's example and repeat what I said last week. And that is that which you are not trying to change, you are choosing. So.
Awesome. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us tonight. Thank you for the panel on this evening. And from my side, stay safe, stay blessed, stay warm. And next week, same time, we're back on Joy Radio again with a new topic. Watch out on social media next week networks for that topic. And till next week, when we talk again on the Straight Talk with the UIM. Father, we thank you for your guidance with the discussions on the program this evening. Lord, be with each and everyone throughout the weekend and week until we gather again. Bless every listener in Jesus' name. Amen.